Um, oh, so, I don't know, I guess I'll leave it there, but I appreciate, Leanne, your understanding that I may have to say more than most just because of the credentials that I hold.
Okay, any other remarks anyone wishes to make? If not, we will go to the American Rescue Plan. This is page 370, 373.
Thank you, and thank you for the discussion. So in regards to the American Rescue Plan, just a reminder that these funds are to be obligated by December 31st of 2024. And ever since we knew about these funds, we have a funding concept that we regularly bring before the board before we do spend these monies. While they have to be obligated by December 31st of 2024, they don't have to be spent until December 31st of 2026. So in this year's plan, we do have a lot of the funds are pretty status quo. We've been giving them to different organizations annually. Those organizations all know that this is one-time limited funding. And so in some instances, such as with mental health, there's anticipations, as well as social services, there's anticipation that funding is going to be realized from the state. And in some instances, such as around homelessness, we are seeing some of that. So these revenues, as they go away, those organizations know that they're going to have to find other resources because the county isn't going to be able to provide those. One of the major expenditures that we do have out of this fund this coming year is for capital improvements, and that is for the replacement of 3 different elevators, one in the courthouse, one in the 800 Exchange building, and one in the 820 Exchange building. We also, excuse me, have other improvements that we are continuing to work on in regards to disaster mitigation, and one of those is for a fuel station. Some of those expenses have happened in this current year, and we are applying for grants for those, but this fuel station is to have another site out at the Warrenton jail or sheriff's office. So that way we have a fueling station that is out of the inundation zone that will be accessible. And then we also have funds that will be going towards further improvements out at the Westport Sewer District. Any questions?
I think you're doing a very good job of first trying to make sure you get all the dollars spent, but at the same time not putting yourself in a position where you've committed to long-term expenditures where the funding is not only unclear but perhaps unlikely going forward. I think that philosophy is very comforting.
The board has done a really good job in regards to, while $7.8 million seems like a lot of money, in the grand scheme of things, to make improvements countywide throughout all of the different services that are provided with other organizations as well. It doesn't go very far, but we have, I feel, done a lot to move the needle on a lot of issues.
Other questions, comments on this fund? Seeing none.
Commissioner Webb.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Webb.
I have a question for our budget director, or Monica. Having just come back from Washington, D.C. and discussing our lobbying efforts around getting additional money from the federal government, where in the budget, especially now that we're going back, that the Congress is going back to having what used to be stipulated asks, and having sat through a meeting that Senator Wyden was actually running on the Appropriations Committee. Where do we insert? I realize that most of those monies, for instance, the grant that we just got for for a transportation plan, improvement plan. Where does that, I realize this is, you know, I don't actually know when that money will come. I don't know if it's October 1st, but that still is within this budget year. Where does that get plugged
So
in?
right now, those sorts of funding, like we just learned of that, I can't remember, I think that was just last week,
Right.
at the end of last week. So at this point in time, we have not seen any grant documentation or anything like that. And this goes back to those mid-year adjustments. So until we know more, we're gonna propose this budget for approval. Without that in there, it will go before the board to be adopted. And then once we have the actual grant document, it will then come before the board for a budget, for an
Right.
appropriation budget adjustment.
Right.
And that's a lot of what you all see, specifically with like the public health and the mental health contracts, because those different funding streams, they find different revenues and then we have to adjust the contract. So we're holding off at this point in time until we have more information.
Okay, and with the ARPA money, does it actually, I mean, we do designate it out, but does it actually come through our checking account?
Yeah, yes, we have those funds. When the federal government allocated those funds to the state, they came directly to us in 2 payments. They came in 1 year, I can't remember now, whether it was 1920 and 2021, but it came in 50% in each of those 2 years. And so we have those funds. They've been sitting in our this specific ARPA fund. And we've been allocating them out as we need them each year.
And that, I kind of wish you had put our allocations in here, because I think the board is very proud of the way we have allocated this money throughout the entire county. That's probably not appropriate to put it in the budget, but.
Well,
but
I mean, we have some of it in the budget summary in regards to some of the highlights for major accomplishments this past year, but we can also just add, because it is on our website, and we do have the template as to where the funds have been spent. And so we try to make sure that that's updated at least twice a year. But we can look at other ways to get that information out there, especially as that funding is coming to a close.
Yeah, and so this, I mean, I don't know. I guess I was just, I can see the money on these pages, but I never mind. Because in reading through, I mean, I really liked the beginning explanation. And I just don't know how many people are ever going to read that, but I do consider it one of this board's really major. We have really put a lot of hard work, and the staff's, of course, assistance, into putting this money in, I think, some really important and strategic places. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll work on getting some communications out there as this starts to wrap up to make sure that the countywide, it's known where these dollars went.
Anybody else on the American Rescue Plan? The next appropriation for contingency, page 376.
So because these funds are to be obligated by December of 2024, we don't have anything budgeted in contingency because we do anticipate spending these dollars. If for some reason, such as with the elevator replacement, if we aren't able to complete all of those projects, then that will roll into next year, and then we will be making sure that it's spent by December of 2026.
Phil's. The next one, insurance reserve, 378.
So for the most part, this is again a status quo budget. This is, we don't budget the revenue that we receive in here because we never know what it is going to be. What we receive is the safe reimbursement, and that's our workers' comp insurance. And as you can tell, when you look at fiscal year 21-22 actuals versus fiscal year 22-23, that number can vary greatly. And so we don't actually budget the revenue. We have those reserves that are sitting there. So if we do have some sort of claim or settlement that has to be paid out, this is where we make those payments from.
So any income is kind of a windfall.
Yeah.
Questions? All right. In that case, debt service, page 380.
So this fund is where we are currently paying for two debts that we have. One is a general obligation bond that the voters approved, and one is a full faith and credit. One is for the full faith and credit is for a remodel that took place, I want to say back in 2003 or 4, somewhere around there, for the sheriff's office, and then the other one was the jail that we are currently. We will be asking for your committee to approve the indebtedness amount at the end of this meeting.
How much was that earlier bond, that 2003 bond?
It wasn't a bond, it was a full faith and credit, and it was for $2 million. And so the county is just paying for those through timber dollars, essentially from special projects.
Commissioner Thompson, you had a question?
Well, thank you, sir. About that one, do you know when we'll be done with that? Because I probably have heard it and just have forgotten. If you could refresh my memory, I'd be grateful.
Yes, it's a 15-year loan, and we have 4 more payments on it. This is the 11th of the 15. And then, of course, the general obligation bond is a 30-year. Or 29. Or,
Anyone
sorry,
else?
20.
Anyone else have a question, comment? Okay. The bond and UAL reserve funds is 383.
This was a fund that was set aside. Currently, we're not receiving any revenues, and we don't plan to expend any revenues. We set this aside because PERS was taking one-time payments that would help offset the increases associated with the unfunded liability in PERS accounts. They, for a little while, were also providing some matching awards to go with that. So the county set these funds aside, so should we have a significant unfunded liability that is impacting our PERS rate, we can make a payment towards that. Or if there is an instance where PERS rates increase substantially, and from personnel services perspective, we need additional resources to help offset those costs, that's what these funds are for. So this is a reserve account to either pay down our unfunded liability with PERS or assist in covering the personnel costs.
The way I think about this and some of the other reserve funds is they're like the equivalent at a nonprofit of a board designated restricted fund, so that the board can, if the board says we need this $1.5 million for some other thing, they could make that change.
Yes, they could.
Other questions, comments? Okay. We now turn to land use, housing, transportation, economic development, and to county tourism. And this is out on page 427.
So this fund is where we have the transient room tax that is dedicated to tourism promotion. And so we have the countywide 1% tax. And of that 1% tax, the 70% that's collected in the unincorporated Clatsop County goes to this, along with the 70% of the 2.5% increase that happened back in 2015. The 70% of that 1% that is collected countywide in each of the cities, that 70% is given back to the cities so they can spend for dedicated tourism promotion per ORS. This fund here, we have been contracting with Lower Columbia Tourism Commission to provide those tourism services on the county's behalf to promote countywide. And we have historically been budgeting with them 95,000. And it is budgeted in the contractual services line item. And we are proposing to increase that to 170,000. We do have the funds available and they are to be used for tourism promotion. Another payment that we have is for $200,000 to be transferred to special projects. And this is for the development costs out at the Westport Ferry Landing for the park. This is another use that the tourism dollars can be used for is capital improvements. And this park is a rest area for many tourists who are going back and forth across the Westport Ferry. And so we're proposing to do some capital improvements out there using these tourism dollars. And there's also a proposed increase of $20,000, and that would be going to the 4 museums that are in Clatsop County and increasing the amount that is contributed to them so that they can continue to do the tourism work that they do around teaching people about our culture and history here in Clatsop County.
And those are the items that make up the $646,000 in contractual services.
The special payments is the 40,000 that would go towards the museums, and the 651,000 is a portion of that is the Lower Columbia Tourism Commission. The rest of that is should there be anything else that comes up, we would be able to utilize those funds for that. The transfer out is what's paying for the Westport Ferry, as well as we also contribute funds to the fairgrounds and the parks so that they can do tourism promotion around signs.
Fair amount of unallocated money in this budget.
Yes. And some of that is because as different projects might arise, one area that we are waiting to see if we might be able to utilize some of these funds is for the net pins out by the drawing a blank. I want to call it the yacht club, but it's not the yacht club. There was some damage done out there, and this is a public pier for fishing off of. And so if necessary, there was significant damage done in a storm last winter. And so if there isn't enough funds from the insurance monies, we will use tourism dollars to help finish paying for the costs of replacing that pier.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Allen, or Committee Member Allen.
So, and you may not know the answer to this because I think Andrew gave me this document, not you. The room tax, I was trying to understand why overall, in the general fund overall, which is I think the document he gave me, this is room tax of $350 proposed as revenue, same as the prior year. Overall, though, am I correct, Monica, that the room tax in last year's budget was $2,095,000, and that we are expected this year overall across the whole general fund to only collect $1.657 million?
No, I don't think that's correct, because the room tax overall there in the general fund is in several different places. So this is one area, and this is the part of the room tax. And so this is the confusing part about room tax. When we started collecting room taxes, the state didn't have any say over how we use those dollars. So when we implemented a 7% room tax, that was 100% discretionary that the county collected. And it continued to be 100% discretionary until we increased that tax in 2015. I believe it was in 2003 when the state said anybody who's collecting room tax has to dedicate 70% of that to tourism promotion, and then the 30% is discretionary to use how they want. Since we had implemented before that, all of that 7% is discretionary and goes into the general fund. 2015, we increased by 2.5%. So of that 2.5% increase, 70% goes into this org unit, and then the other 30% goes into discretionary.
So it is
And
only
then-
the increase portion
Yes.
that has that restriction of 70%.
Yes. And
Okay.
so then again in 2018, when we increased that 1%, that 30% that is collected county-wide, that is discretionary, the board dedicated that to go into the corrections budget, the jail budget, to help pay for the jail costs. And I want to say that that is approximately, I'd have to go back and look, but I want to say this next year, we are anticipating it being around $800,000. And then of that 1%, that is 70% dedicated, that is collected in the unincorporated area, that also goes into this for tourism promotion. And then the 70% of that 1% collected in the cities goes back to the cities for them to use for tourism promotion.
Okay, so the question I have then is the forecast that I received in an email when I requested an actual, and it was hard for you guys to provide it. Basically, what was asked for the last 4 years I've been on here is something that gives us an actual for this year, forecasted to the end of the year, compared to this budget. What I finally got this year was the general fund only. I believe what it is that it is only that it's the entire general fund, because it shows that the budget, what we approved for room tax, was $2,095,000 for fiscal year 24. It shows though that the actual forecasted to be collected is only 1.657.
So if I could just jump in and just clarify
Go
real
ahead.
quick. The document that I did send you, so this is a good little case in point. Though that's a living document, that those figures get updated as we receive new information. So the document I sent you was about 3 weeks ago. Even in that time, that projection has now changed to nearly 1.86 million. So I just wanted to kind of just clarify that piece. That's how quickly these things change.
But so was it not forecasted to the end of the year? Was that just through the current then? Because it does say forecasted to the end of the year.
Correct. New information was presented. These reports get refreshed weekly. So as we receive new information, these figures get updated along the way.
And I'll also, just to kind of provide some support for Andy, since he is new to this, one of the things that happens is when we're collecting room taxes, some people, you only have to submit quarterly, and their quarters that they're collecting are different than our quarters that we are reporting on. So they're saying, you know, January, February, and March is a quarter.
Right.
Well, March 30th would be the end of our quarter, but they don't have to pay for that quarter
Correct.
until April 15th. So there's that piece of it. And then some cities and some transient tax collectors, hotels, short-term rentals, pay monthly, and some pay quarterly. And so that's the other piece of it, is just trying to figure out, okay, when I'm doing this forecast, how am I looking at, you know, the amount that's coming in? I can't just take, you know, and divide by quarters, and I can't just take and divide by months, because it varies slightly. And then the other piece of it, because Andy hasn't been here for a full year yet, is you have quarters that do better than other quarters. And so of course our summer months do much better. And then typically our, the end of the December 31st quarter does better. January, February, and March kind of dies off. Spring break sometimes does well. So it's really kind of trying to figure out and learn those cyclical patterns and trying to figure out, okay, when are they actually making the payments? So, you know, in defense of Andy, he's still learning. And so I probably could have done a better job of explaining some of that to him.
And I get that cyclical. I mean, usually you would look back to the prior years and those ebbs and flows at the different time periods. I'm assuming that if, are you recording when they remit in July, that is not recorded in last fiscal year? Are you recording cash basis or accrual for that then? The
We do a
expectation,
modified accrual basis. And so
Okay.
in that instance, we report it in July when we received it because
Okay.
we're not the ones who are providing that service.
right, because it's running through revenue online at this point for some of that. The county, I think, is one of the only ones that isn't right now. But okay, so the other question then is, then we're 200,000 high this year. What is the total this year in this budget that we have budgeted for the room tax that we're proposing?
I believe that that's in one of the summarized in one of the front sections, but I apologize, I don't have it right off of the top of my head, but I am
Memory
happy to.
tells me it was 2.2 million.
Yeah, I
for-
want to say that it was approximately 2 million, but I don't have it right off the top of my head.
I believe it's 2.2 million.
It is. I found it.
Okay.
It's 2.2.
Yeah.
And
so
last year
2.
it was 2.095.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. And if we are only collecting 1.8, and historically we've collected 1.8, see, final number for 23 was 1.691, 1.832. Why have we expected an increase when in this particular area, most of the people that I work with that are running Airbnbs and those types of things, I have, you know, and watch that because of my clientele, that have industry where they service those people, they're expecting a 30% decrease.
We're just going off of the best information that we have based on the historical amounts and based on what we anticipate from potential hotels coming online and such. So that's the best information that we have, and we if the committee is suggesting that we make a change, we can take that into consideration and do as you direct.
I think that number is overstated, particularly, and I'm a little worried that if it's overstated, we should pull it back, because even historically and where the trends are in the industry, it's not expected to increase. I would think that unless you have some information on, is there a new hotel that's coming in or something?
We anticipated, because we had a moratorium on our STRs, and that got lifted, and we were worried in some instances that people weren't going to be able to potentially or choose not to renew those STR licenses. And at this point, we haven't seen a change in that.
Okay.
And the
well-
city of Astoria has 200, over 200 rooms that will be opening up. And maybe you won't get any revenue this year, but that seems to be saying that hoteliers expect that there will be increased need for hotel rooms going forward. And I'm a little reluctant to use some historic standards, since during COVID, the use of hotel rooms was obviously much less than you know, than if COVID hadn't happened.
Well, I think during COVID, it went up. Because they were using the hotel rooms for other purposes. Many of the hotels were being used for quarantine. If I remember from, I don't have that budget in front of me, but I think it actually went up. I just think 2.2 is a little high. I think maybe, but,
So
I-
for example, just so you know, in regards to our current year jail room tax operations, budgeted for 23-24 were 650,000. We have currently collected 772,000. And so that's in the jail, so we are at 118% more than what we had anticipated. And so for 24-25, I believe the amount that we have budgeted in there is 800,000, which is relatively
Which
in
is-
line with the 772 that we've currently collected.
so is it down in another area? Because there's about a $300,000 discrepancy, which is significant and material in that particular area. But I think I would like to see the number pulled back to more like 2 million. Only because I think that's more realistic of what will come in. When you break it into the pieces, where's the piece then that's dragging the whole thing down? If you say we're going to get 1.8 by year end, we're still under significantly.
And so if that is the direction that the budget committee wants to do, we can go that direction. We would just then be increasing the general fund transfer amount by $200,000. So that way we again have a balanced budget.
Right, because the only way this balances is if you use the stabilization fund, so. All right, unless somebody else wants to make a motion, I think I will just leave it on the record that I think that's overstated, and hopefully staff will watch that one.
Commissioner Thompson, you have a comment?
Thank you. I support the recommendation that, that member Allen just made, that we're going to watch it carefully and adjust if need be, but proceed with the budget as it's written now. I think that's a prudent way to proceed.
Other comments? Okay. We will move, in that case, to special projects. That can be found on page 441.
So we do have a decrease in what we are proposing here slightly. And as mentioned, this is because we are postponing some of those Duane Street Annex projects. And we also had in future years, in our long-term capital plan, had forecasted out the phases of the Duane Street Annex. So that has all been postponed. One proposed amendment that we do have is we are continuing work on our brownfield grant. And so we are proposing increasing the revenues by 200,000 and the expense by 200,000. This is a multi-year grant we received $500,000 for, and we have been continuing to use those funds this past year, and it will roll into next year as well. And we neglected to include that in the budget. So we would be increasing the overall expenditures in this fund to $4,175,540, but we're again increasing the revenue by the same exact amount because it's a reimbursable grant. I will say sorry, Chair Ogier, so we do kind of break out on page 446 and 447 all of the different projects that are being budgeted for. And then there's also future year projects that if we do have the funding that we've pushed out to future years, or that we have planned already for future years. And then as you go past page 447, it then goes into all of those individual asks and what they're for, and what the plan is if it isn't approved or isn't able to move forward because funding is not adequate. based on the estimates that we get when we go through the RFQ process.
Commissioner Webb?
I'm sorry, I have to always mute myself because my roommate is barking a lot today because we have people doing doing stuff around here. I would like to say thank you for this for this list. As you know, Monica, I've always complained that we don't have a capital budget. And this is the closest thing to a capital budget I think I'm going to get you to do. So thank you very much. I still wish we could do something closer to a capital budget, but if every year you crawl forward a little bit, you're going to make me happy. So
And
thank you.
we do intend to, and now that we have Andy here, that's one of the projects that.
Okay, thank you, really. This was, as I say, this is the closest. One of the things, you know, I think now, especially that we have such an improved public information office, I think that a capital budget, one of the reasons I'm so adamant about liking it, first of all, is that as a former Fed, the federal government likes to fund projects that have been planned, and a capital budget speaks to that. And I think it's something that for our citizens, it lets them know that we are thinking ahead. You know, a lot of times I have citizens comment to me about, oh, you know, we ought to be doing this. Well, you know, we've got it on our list. And so I think it's important for our citizens to be able to see that kind of thing. Even though we don't have a capital budget process, we do to some extent. And so thank you. This makes me very happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Allen, you had your little yellow hand is still up. Do you have a question, or do you just haven't taken it down?
Oh, no, it doesn't say it's up on my end.
Okay,
Oh,
there it goes.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
Unless you want me to say more, I have lots to say, obviously. Not coherently sometimes though, and so sorry. All right.
Our last active fund, we are now on fleet replacement. This is page 458.
So the fleet replacement fund is a fund where the building codes transfers revenues into every year to pay for replacement of future year vehicles. This year, in the 23-24 fiscal year, they purchased a new vehicle and they were able to acquire $7,000 from the sale of that vehicle. That was not budgeted as a transfer, but they would like to transfer it next year. So we spoke earlier when we spoke about building codes, and we increased their beginning balance by $7,000. And here we are requesting a proposed amendment to increase the revenues by $7,000 and the contingency by $7,000. So the total expenditures in this fund would be $121,380, and that would all sit in contingency.
Okay. Questions, observations? We have one inactive budget. School-based health centers. I don't imagine there's much comment on that since it's all zeros. But
and I'll just say we spoke about this yesterday in regards to this program is being taken over and contracted with somebody else, but the school-based health center is still active and operating out in Jewel.
okay, so that brings us to the end of the various funds. We now come to public comments. To ensure that everyone has a chance to comment, we ask speakers to observe the 3-minute time limit. Monica?
Well, a couple things. Clara has her hand up, but then
Oh.
Andy was also just gonna kind of read through all of the total amendments for you as well. So I just wanted to remind you of that before you move on to the approval.
No, I understand that, and I also want to, as, in a sense, as part of the public comments, if there are any members of the committee, either, board members, the electeds or lay members who wish to make some, let's say, closing remarks. So why don't we start with Clara?
Hi, not really a remark. I just had a quick question about where in the budget would we find information on funding that the county provides for like special districts? I don't remember seeing that. I may have just missed it though.
So, in the dues and special assessments, so for example, the Soil and Water Conservation District, we have budgeted $6,000 for funding to go to the Soil and Water Conservation District. And I apologize because I lost my paper to figure out exactly what page that is. Page
364.
On page 366, line
See it
item
now.
823110 is the Soil and Water Conservation District. We also pass through funding to Northwest Senior Disabilities and Services, as well as the ROC for the Rural Outreach Community, or the Rural Outreach. I'm drawing a blank on what ROC stands for. And then there's $30,000 that is contributions to outside agencies.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm always amazed at Monica's ability to be, you can ask her a question on any number anywhere in the budget and she just knows it.
Not always.
Commissioner Thompson.
Well, 99 times out of 100 she does, so that's close enough. Well, so to talk about the Soil and Water Conservation District, I've sat on that, Commissioner Webb has sat on that, Commissioner Bangs has sat on that. We have budget member Sroof on that. It's just, it deals with the eternals, the soil and water. And it always breaks my heart that we only give it $6,000 a year. I don't know if the current non-elected county commissioner who sits on that, there's only one of us, Claire, that qualifies, would like to speak about the needs of that body, of that organization, or are you content? Are you content with $6,000 a year?
Well, I know personally that the board did request more money this year just because along with everything else, you know, all of our operating expenses have gone up. We're really desperately in need of hiring another person to help out, but you know, it looks like nobody else really got an increase either. So that makes me feel a little better, but it is something where we haven't gotten an increase more than that 6,000 in a very long time.
Well, okay, so Chair Ozer, may I speak again then?
Please.
You know, anything more that goes into the Soil and Water Conservation District has to come from reserves. I'm crystal clear on that. On the other hand, this is the soil, this is the water. There is no more fundamental aspect of life on Earth than the soil and the water, unless you count the air. So I don't know if this is the time to make, I'm going to make a motion, why not, right? I would move that we double from $6,000 to $12,000 the contribution that Clatsop County makes to the Clatsop County Soil and Water Conservation Special District.
A motion, do we have a second?
I'll
This could be
second.
from
Loud too.
anyone. Who is that seconded?
Clara Srove.
Clara. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Ms. Allen?
Is there a page we can see what this additional would be spent on? what the expenditures, because that's a transfer to them. So what is it being transferred exactly for? For staff? Is that what I'm understanding, Clara?
I apologize, as a dog in the background. You know, I don't have our budget in front of us for that board. I do know that our director Misty wrote in when we requested more money. I'm not sure who has that.
How much
Looks
was
like Monica
requested?
might be looking for it.
Do you know how much was requested, the additional? Was it double?
I don't believe it was double. This was something we did about 3 months ago. Monica might have it now, it looks like.
I have it, but there's a request of $8,000, and it says the Clatsop County SWCD would like to express sincere gratitude for the county for contributing the $6,000 amount requested for previous 10 years. However, due to increase in cost to continue providing free assistance to residents, we find ourselves at a junction compelling us to request consideration for your continued support at or above the previously approved amount.
Okay. Thank you, Monica.
Could I say more?
Please.
Well, thank you. Here's the thing. This is Mike Seppa is, I think he's older than even the rest of us graybeards on this board. You know what I mean? And he's been out there working as an unpaid staff member who also chairs that for what, 20 years, 25 years?
I believe it's closer to 25 now.
Yeah. And we're not able to keep up with noxious weeds. If you've gone around and seen Scotch broom and you've seen knotweed, Japanese knotweed, I mean, we're losing the battle. We haven't increased this due to inflation. And yet we pulled $30,000 out of the budget for the, you know, for the arts or for other kinds of, granted, worthy endeavors, but it's not the eternals of the soil and the water. So, you know, I'm willing to entertain some kind of reasonable figure. I just said double it because for as long as I can remember, and again, it's been 10 years that I've been knocking around this budget, we haven't increased it by a single penny. And the people are getting older and the situation of the soil, and in some cases, the water is getting worse. I think they're an essential partner doing invaluable work, and we should support them more adequately.
So I'm sorry, I'm not even sure I understand what they do. Do they do the weeds along the road?
That's one of our programs. We have quite a few different programs, but dealing with noxious weeds is one of them that we have had to pull back on a little bit. And Oregon Agriculture has tried to take over a bit, but they're stretched incredibly thin too. We have a director for the region, and you know, a regional director is not as useful as an actual county local group that can handle these things.
And it's a match, and it's primarily personnel to deal with. I mean, I remember when I was on, we were dealing with the water lilies that were clogging up the lake and turning it into a bog from an actual lake. I mean, the list goes on and on. The need is considerable. I don't know how much of a dent we can make in it, but we're going in the wrong direction because we have not kept pace with inflation for at least the past decade and probably longer.
Any other comments, part of this discussion? If not, we'll call for a vote. The motion on the table is to increase the donation to the Soil Conservation District in the budget from 6,000 to 12,000. I'm sorry, Commissioner Webb, you wanted to make a comment? You're muted.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I've got the barkers at will. I sat on the Soil and Water Conservation District for, I think, the first 4 years that I was on the commission. To be honest, I don't find them to be an incredibly proactive group, but at the same time, I agree with Commissioner Thompson that it's almost embarrassing that we haven't raised our support for 10 years. And, they're still facing all kinds of issues. And $6,000 doesn't buy much in this world right now. I'm not even sure that $12,000 buys that much, but I do think it might be some kind of a message to them that we support their work and we encourage them to be more proactive by giving them more money. So thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I'd like to second or support the motion.
Commissioner Banks,
I move to amend the main motion from 12,000 to the 8,000 requested by the agency.
okay, is that, Commissioner Thompson, you made the motion. Are you okay with that amendment?
You know, it's been so long and they just have a poverty mentality. Commissioner Banks, I respectfully decline to accept your motion.
So we have a motion. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the table? If that motion passes, we'll move on. If it does not pass, we can consider another motion that Commissioner Bangs may wish to make. Okay, so again, all in favor of increasing the Soil Conservation District contribution from the county for this budget from 6,000 to 12,000, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Maybe we should get a count.
If we could do a roll call count
Yeah.
on that, thank you.
do-
I'll go ahead and start with Chair Ogier.
Aye.
Okay, Member Allen,
It's nay because it would have to come out of contingency, so I ethically can't vote yes.
thank you. Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Webb,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Nay.
Commissioner Quila.
Aye.
That was a yes, sorry,
Yes.
okay. Commissioner Toyoka,
Yes.
Chair Ogier.
I vote, yeah, aye. I thought I already voted. Okay, aye.
Oh, sorry, yes, you are correct. Who am I missing? Sorry, I'm trying to, Member Struth.
Aye.
I make it 6-2.
Yeah, who are we missing? Oh, we're missing Tita, but that makes 9, doesn't it?
Is
Shouldn't they
she
have 10? Tita's not here.
here?
You're also
It's-
missing the veterinarian gal.
Yeah.
Oh, Danelle, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to count and, okay. So,
So 6 is a majority of the total members, right?
yes,
Because you have to have a majority of the total membership to pass a motion, not just of the people there.
yes.
Yes, okay, so that motion passes. Okay, any other comments from the public or from committee members? Okay, in that case, we have a number of adjustments that staff wishes to inform us of in terms of the amount that we're going to eventually end up asking for approval on.
Correct. So we just wanted to provide a recap of all those amendments after going through nearly 100 departments. We thought it would be healthy to just touch on the amendments that'll be affected. So kind of starting from the top, community corrections will be increasing the revenues by $203,340, as well as an increase in materials and services by the same amount. The planning division will be increasing the transfers in from the video lottery revenues by $187,000. I'm sorry, $187,710. In building codes, we'll be increasing the beginning balance revenues by $7,000, as well as an offsetting increase to transfers out by $7,000. In the video lottery, we'll be increasing the beginning balance by $128,950, as well as an increase in other revenues by $57,000. For a total in the, we'll also be increasing the transfers out by the total of $185,950. In special projects, we'll be increasing the brownfield grant revenue by $200,000, as well as the offsetting expenses by $200,000. In fleet replacement, we'll be increasing the transfers in by $700,000, bringing the budgeted contingency in the amount of $121,380,000. The general fund stabilization, we will be decreasing the transfers out by $187,710. And the most recent one that we just talked about would be in dues and special assessments. We will be increasing the special payments by $6,000 for the Soil Conservation District. That covers all of our amendments, at which point I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Ogier, for any public comment.
Everybody got that? Where does that
I'm sorry. So ultimately,
leave
all that,
yeah.
yeah, George probably tell you that, right? So that brings the countywide budget up to $98,534,440.
Okay, and we were at
previously we were at $97,810,770. So this is a change of about $723,670.
all right. And when we approve the budget, that's the amount that we're going to approve.
Correct.
And
This will be
we also,
this will be incorporated in the adopted budget.
okay, so it's $98,538,440, is that right?
$98,534,440.
Okay. I have here on my agenda, we need to approve the tax rate for the fairgrounds.
Both the tax rate for the countywide as well as the fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds, okay. So I don't have the exact amount for the county. Let's do the fairgrounds first.
So if I may, Chair Ogier,
Please.
on item 15, if you want to ask for approval of the budget with the tax rate of 1.5338 per thousand and 0.07 per thousand for the fairgrounds local option.
I would certainly like to do that. Can we get a motion there? Mr. Thompson?
Chair Ozer, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the tax rate of $1 and 1.5338 per thousand for the county and 0.07 per thousand for the fairground local option.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nay, opposed?
Aye.
Was that? I'm sorry, is that a nay vote?
No, I had an aye. I was very late though.
Okay, a late aye. That's good enough for us. Do we have total levy for bonded indebtedness? Do we have to make a?
You have to approve that as well, please.
Okay, so I'd like to get another motion to approve the total levy for bonded indebtedness of $1,567,128.
$460,745.
Okay, give me that again. 1 million.
Am I looking at something wrong? I
don't know. I'm reading this off my little cheat sheet here.
I have total levy for bonded indebtedness of $1,460,000 $745,000, 45,
You tell me, 'cause
1,460,745.
I got about 100,000 more than that, so you tell me what's right.
Monica, remember we had there was a small adjustment that we made there was an other funds portion to that calculation that we took out.
Then I defer to you to provide them with the correct amount. Sorry, I was just going with what's on the, what I have on my agenda.
And I'm sorry, you might have a previous version. Chair Ozier, what you have in front of you, the 1,567,128 is the current.
That's the correct number. Okay, so I'd like to get a motion to approve a total levy for bonded indebtedness, $1,567,128.
So moved. Commissioner Webb.
Commissioner Webb, we have a second.
Commissioner Thompson will second.
Second. Good. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are done. And thank you all for participating, and we'll see what happens next year. Thanks to staff very much.
Wait a
The
second, did I
elections.
miss? I thought our last vote was to approve the levy.
Yes, it was.
No, the one before that.
No, the one before that was to approve well, yeah, this is that was the tax levy for the budget and for the fairgrounds budget. And then we have a separate, I don't know quite why, but we have a separate levy that we have to approve for the repayment of the bonded indebtedness. So we had
But did we
two.
approve the budget then?
Yes.
Yes.
It was an approval of the budget with a tax rate, which was 1.5338, 1 per thousand, and 0.07 per thousand.
Okay, then change my vote on that to no, because that was not what I understood him saying, sorry.
Okay.
I thought it was just the tax rate. I got confused, sorry.
Okay, so no vote for Alan.
On the entire budget, yeah, it's a no from me, because they're dipping into the stabilization fund to actually balance the budget, yeah.
Okay.
I apologize, I misspoke it. You heard correctly. I misspoke.
Can we, just for the record, can we get a motion and take a vote again, please?
Yeah. let
That's a
me-
very good idea, and I think we should do it by a roll call, just to be sure. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the budget with the following tax rates. $1.5338 per thousand and 7 cents per thousand for the fairgrounds local option.
Yes, I'd make that motion, just the way you said it, because I'm not even going to try and repeat it right now, even
Good.
if I can see it in front of me.
Good. Can we
And
get a
I'll
second
I'll second that motion.
discussion? We will have a roll call vote. Steele.
Okay, Chair Ozier,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Webb,
Aye.
Member Allen,
Nay.
Member Stroof,
Aye.
Commissioner Toyoka,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Chair Quila.
Aye.
Okay,
I make that 7-1. Do people want to have another vote on the levy for bonded indebtedness, or are people okay with that one? I assume people are okay with that. Okay. Saying goodbye, take two. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the members. Thank you, staff. And we are officially finished.
thank
And,
you all for your service.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Chair Ozier, and thank
Thank
you,
you.
Monica
Thank you.
and Andrew.
David.
Great job.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Bye-bye.